Hello, today we're going to talk about understanding DORA subtest scores. So first I want to show you where they're located once you log into your Let's Go Learn account. You'll notice I'm on the Home tab. I'm going to navigate to Scores and Reports and down to Active Pulse ELA. From here I'll see my class list, and across the top I see the hovering over for subtests. If I want to know what any subtest is, I simply hover over. For example, HF is high frequency words. I can see here there's a score range from mid-kinder to high third grade. And if I look down below, I'll see the scores that my students received. So at any time you can do that as you're viewing scores to understand a little bit more about each subtest. Today, I do want to jump in a little bit deeper and show you from the student view and give you a little bit more background on each of the subtests. So we'll start with high frequency words. This subtest is the only time subtest in the Let's Go Learn. So that's something important to keep in mind. We do want to see that the students have the automaticity, right? They know those words and they can recognize them quickly. So here's an example screenshot of what the student would see. They would hear the word, click on it, and then move forward that way. The word recognition subtest is simply being able to understand those words out of context and be able to decode those words. This section is not timed. They can take their time going through it, and you'll really see when students start cracking the code of decoding, you'll see this score really shoot up. So that's one thing to keep in mind as you're viewing word recognition scores. Know that it doesn't necessarily mean they know the word, as in it could be a vocabulary word, they understand what it means, but they can decode and read that word out of context. Now the phonics practice, students will see a screen just like this that's listed, and they are going to see examples of real words and nonsense words. So this is really important for the assessment so that we can see that instead of the student just memorizing the word and knowing it that way, they really have those phonics principles in place and they're able to use them even when they come to a word that is a non-word. And then you will see the score listed for here. Again, these scores do have max scores, and that's listed on your Home tab. When you log into the ELA Active Pulse, you'll be able to see that as you hover over each of the subtests, the bold type. Now, the Phonemic Awareness subtest is available for all students, but it only opens up if students are showing in some of those earlier subtests we just reviewed that phonemic awareness might be an issue, that understanding that words are made up of sounds and being able to manipulate those sounds. So if any of those subtests have a score, there's a threshold, this subtest will open up. They're going to see moving boxes on their screen as they're listening to the word out loud. For example, it might be mop or mom, and then they're going to be asked to do different things to be able to recognize, those sounds in words and where they're located. Again, if you see an NT score, that's no problem. That just means that they scored high enough in the initial subtest that this was not opened up for them. On to oral vocabulary, a student is this is based on the Peabody picture vocabulary. Students are able to hear the word, and then they're going to use the pictures then to identify the best meaning of the word. So the students, again, the rest of this assessment is not timed. They have time to think about this and go through and select their best answer. Now the spelling portion of this assessment does require the student to use a lot of their skills, right? They're listening to the word, they need to type in the word, look to see if it's correct, and enter it in. So it's not multiple choice. And due to the fact that a lot of students are on screens that we're using spell check and different things like that, you may see a trend of some of the spelling scores being a little bit lower than maybe even their reading ability or that student's able to do. So that is one thing to consider. This is another piece of the student as a reader, and now, understanding spelling and being able to encode those words as well. And the last subtest is silent reading comprehension. So a couple important things to note. The passages are nonfiction. So we really want to see, can they approach expository text grade level text, read that and understand what they read and, work with that content. So the students are notified that they can't go back to the passage. So versus a test prep where you might read the questions first and then go skim the passages, it's really important they understand they need to really read it and take their time to read it, and then they'll have a chance to answer those questions. Once they move on to the questions, though, they can't go back to the reading. And this really allows us to see a really more true comprehension score. At what grade level are they able to gather that text, especially nonfiction text, understand it, and then answer those questions? So you're going to see a much more, it can be a little bit trickier for students who are used to looking back, but a pretty accurate score for how students can approach grade level text. So that is really helpful for students to know. Another key thing that I didn't mention, just as a feature of all of our assessments, is they can start and stop them at any time. So once you finish the high frequency word subtest, they can start and stop. So sometimes I'd have my students, when I was doing this, we'd work through those first subtests, pause, and then the next day we would do reading comprehension. So it was fresh the next day. It does take about 45 to 60 minutes, depending on the student. Of course, if they're not reading yet, 15 to 30 minutes, based on where the students, how many passages they get and how far they get through the assessment. Okay, so those are all of the subtests. Again, to review those or to find those, I'm logged into my account, scores and reports, active pulse ELA, and these are the subtests we just reviewed together. Again, you have the bold to let you know exactly what each of the subtests are. Thank you.